rightly said, there are so many law, judicial reforms, etc., that have been, brought in by different governments. The UK government had brought in this reform where no matter could be filed for litigation unless the lawyers from both sides had tried to avoid litigation and submitted affidavit to the effect that they had done their best, and in spite of that the dispute still remained, and therefore it needs the attention of the court. So that's one thing that I have been thinking about for a long time, that we should be doing as a country in order to ensure that the cases, one, the what, there is that word that I am forgetting, which is trivial cases, basically,
Yeah.
that get filed in our courts, that needs to totally be done away with. Because the other statistic that is worth noting is that even today, with no fresh cases being filed in India at the current rate of disposal, it will take 300 years for all of the cases to be disposed of. So,
Right.
how does one deal with that kind of backlog of cases? And some of those things that you're saying, that you mentioned, are definitely, ideas that need to be brought into our system. But is that the question I was trying to answer was with regard to what will benefit the young lawyers? And then,
Amitabh, Amitabh, Sonia, Alap, you guys have a power, and I think the only people that can fix the legal system of India, 70 million pending cases, hundreds of for defendant, a quarter of them criminal, and on and independent 75 are lawyers, but they in-house can dictate as well. But ages, I don't want a pleading over 10. I don't want a pleading over 5. Vasantika, the next question's to you. Should lawyers be allowed to advertise freely in India?
Um, I don't see. I think they should be allowed to an extent. I don't know, freely, not having a full page ad. It might, that's not. But um, and not having a billboard, like, you drive in uh, some countries and then you see big photos of these lawyers. You have a accident claim, call, and then there's a photo of the guy standing there. Then we will find lawyers photos, decorating all our signals, like the politician pictures next. But I don't, maybe I'm a little old school, I don't approve of that. But yeah, we should be permitted to be
law firms or partners, using LinkedIn and talking about a particular case and all this stuff, and also participating in events and all. I think there's a lot of controversy around. I think the best way would be to have some kind of a guidelines, right?
correct.
Which is
You should
balancing.
be
It's not
allowed to
too
do
old
at
school
least
and
that.
not too aggressive advertising. I think a
Yeah.
balanced approach, more of a thought leadership and branding, and some of these, but within proper guideline approach would be good. Otherwise,
I
today what's
agree.
happening? People are doing any which ways the advertising and soliciting. I mean, that's what I think.
So I do keep
Navneet, if
posting on
I may
LinkedIn
also add,
myself, right? I do
Let me
that.
let me let me show you my screen. I
I do
read this
that
yesterday.
myself, right?
Morgan and Morgan increased their marketing and advertising budget. Morgan and Morgan increased their marketing and advertising budget to between 500 to $600 million, up from their
Hi, sir. Please excuse my camera if it switches on abruptly. It's been behaving a bit oddly today. I am a student of law, and I'm very excited to also see Alap sir in the call today, because I am in a college junior and I'm in the fourth year at NLUJ. And your response, Rajiv sir, about believing in oneself really struck the right chord, since I am in that phase right now where I am going to be sitting for placements, and corporate law is not really my interest area, but it's something I'm pursuing for sake of something which I want to begin my career with, to learn and stuff. I would love to know your views on that. If I mean, how do we deal with the peer pressure of not going for corporate, because it does offer a lot of security to us as law students. It's something we see happening around us all the time. Would love to know your thoughts on that.
Thank you so much, Kavita. That's a wonderful question, and I think it's a very common place to be in. When I understand, you must be having a lot of questions right now, and having been someone who graduated from law school, from the 5 year program, and I'm sure most of us who've been there throughout law school, especially in the last 10, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years plus, we've always, I think most of us have had this corporate law bug that has sort of bit us throughout law school. And it's all, I think most of the times, even, and it's all, I think most of the times, even during law school, we didn't really know what corporate law entailed or what corporate law was, but just because it sounded good and everyone was doing corporate law, there was a lot of peer pressure, as you said, to pursue corporate law. And as you were asking me how you should avoid pursue corporate law, and as you were asking me how you should avoid the peer pressure and not doing corporate law, I understand where you're coming from when you say that, but I think what we really need to understand first is the word corporate lawyer or corporate law is heavily is more or less same, except for having your own practice. If you're working in a different team in a law firm, which is not a corporate team, I think if you're working in a different team in a law firm, which is not a corporate team, I think there's really not much of a difference. Maybe of course the nature of the work is different, but in terms of the security, the pay scales, it's pretty much standard, industry wide and firm wide. But I think the biggest takeaway, Kavita, you need to focus on, and not just you. When I say you, I mean all youngsters, is that please stop comparing yourselves or benchmarking yourselves against other peers or your seniors or juniors or anyone in the profession. Everyone has their own journey, and I always like to say this. I don't want to sound like a motivational speaker, but it's not a race, it's a marathon, right? Everybody is going to get there, and you just have to have that belief, that faith, and that patience that your abilities will take you where you need to go. Somebody might get there sooner. When I graduated law school, I had some batchmates who made campus placements into top tier one law firms, making salaries which were unheard of for the time as their opening packages or whatever. But I know it's easy to hear the stories and very easy to think that it could have been me, or why wasn't it me. But you have to be patient, wait for your opportunities, find your opportunities, build a niche for yourself, and most importantly, don't forget the process. Keep working on yourself every day, and it will come. It's not something anybody can take away from you, and even if it doesn't, you would have gained that knowledge, and that knowledge is something that nobody can ever take away from you, because at the end of the day, results are conditional but efforts are not, right? Well, the more efforts you put and the more you work towards building yourself, I think the returns you will see one way or another. Coming back to the question specifically about corporate law, again, I'll try to keep it very short. I'll wrap up in a minute at the most. Having been someone who was enamored by corporate law and then decided to sort of plunge towards litigation, I've seen amongst people I've mentored, and within my, it kept me thinking about how I want to help my clients, how I want to handle my cases. And I didn't feel that passion about deals or transactions or investments, but I felt that for courtroom litigation for whatever reason, right? And it's all about finding that spark, right? I think a lot of people focus on specializations. Having been somebody who's a bit of a generalist and who's sort of experimented with everything, I encourage more generalization than specialization. But if you're somebody who knows exactly what you like, what your specialization is, good for you, great. Keep all your internships, everything focused in that area, great. But if you're somebody who does, like me, who doesn't know what you want to do and you want to figure it out, don't restrict yourself to one field. Don't be like me, ये litigation है मुझे नहीं करना है, ये real estate है मुझे नहीं करना.
Hey,
Don't
Rajiv,
question
why
your
all
first.
this, Rajiv, why all this favoritism? How come your answer is 10x better to Kovida than it was to the 25-year-old Rajiv?
I I think it's the grass is always greener on the other side, sir. It's always easier to give advice to others than to yourself, right?
All right.
Uh,
Thank you,
but
Shuja.
yeah,
Thank you,
that's
Sonia.
that's the long and short of it. All the best.
Thank you, Alap. Thank you, Vasantika. Thank you, Rajiv. Thank you, Amitabh. Please stay involved with ILA. Please come again. Please do a webinar all on your own. Get some speakers, whatever topic. We do this every Saturday morning at 11. And Shanti will be inviting you to join the local boards of ILA in your city. And there's a lot of things wrong that needs to be fixed, and I'm convinced if India wants to become a first world nation by 2047, the only thing that for sure will do